In this exercise, we're going to take a look at the Fireworks CS5.1 interface. And to get yourself started, I need you to open the Huguo image that's located in your exercise folder. And when it opens, it may be rather large. So the first thing I want you to do is actually come over to the menu bar here and select View, Fit All. And you probably see that it just shrinks right into this area in here, which we'll get into in a second. Now, what you're looking at is the PC version of the application. And the reason I started in the PC version is because there's one fundamental difference between the Mac and PC versions. And I thought I'd deal with that right off the bat. And that's this thing right here. This is called the main toolbar. And this toolbar is only available on the PC, and it gives you access to common menu items using an iconic approach. Along here are a bunch of little commands that you can use to work with items that are in your image. You get alignment and tools in here, and then of course you get rotation and flips and things like that. A lot of these tools are also available elsewhere in the application. So if you have a PC, this is what you're going to see. If you have a Mac, you're not going to see it. So let's swing over to the Mac view and go to work. So I'm just going to collapse this down and come back. Okay, so here we are in the Mac version of Fireworks. Again, it's the same thing, only slightly different. As I said, that you got a bunch of menus up here, the usual menus, and the one that really is important to you is this one right here, the window menu. The window menu allows you to add panels. If you don't have a panel open or you need a panel open, this is where you come to get it. And any panel that's got a check mark, for instance, is visible. So if I deselect tools, you're going to see the tool panel over on the left of the screen disappear. See, there it goes. And if I want to bring it back, just select it. Another feature of the Windows menu is one called Other. And that's right here, Others. And these are extra palettes that can be added. And anytime you see a little arrow here, that tells you that there are sub-menus in here that you can choose. So there's a special characters panel, there's a paths panel, image editing, and even a color palette panel. Now, along this toolbar here is a link to browse in Adobe Bridge. This will allow you to use Bridge, which is a content management tool that is installed when you install any of the Adobe products. And what it does is allow you to quickly access images, audio, video, basically content that you can bring into Fireworks from a variety of sources, either on your hard drive or even on external drives. You get a grabber hand tool, a zoom tool, and you even get to choose the zoom level here. Zoom level will zoom you in, zoom you out, and just make the image look, a little bit bigger. Over here is a button called Expanded Mode. These are the various views. So you get Expanded Mode, Iconic Mode, and Iconic Mode with panel names, as you can see. And what this does is just buy you real estate. Now, there's another little difference between the Mac and the PC, and it is in these modes. So I'm going to pop back over and just show it to you. And if you come on the PC, you're going to see netbook mode. Netbook is a very small screen space, and if you select it, you can see that everything shrinks down to fit a netbook sort of environment. Okay, I'm going to get out of this and back over to the Mac. Okay, so here we are. Now let's take a look at this side of the screen. This side of the screen is where the panels are located, and you get a ton of them. To open a panel, all you have to do is just click the tab, and you can see that the panel pops down, and there are quite a few of them, all of them, again, available to you through the window menu. The optimized panel allows you to prepare images for output on the web or even on devices. The history panel follows along with what you're doing, and you can go backwards or forwards in your workflow to get to a certain point. And the align panel allows you to align objects on the canvas. The Pages panel, this is really an important panel. Fireworks gives you the ability to create individual panels. Now, if you're an Illustrator user, think of those as individual artboards, and that's what these are, pages. So if you've got a website that's got multiple pages to it, you can actually set up pages and have different designs for each page. States are for interactivity and for animation, and layers, each page can have its own layers. And there's a major difference between maybe what you've been looking at in the past and what you're looking at now is the addition of this thing called a web layer. And we'll get into that once we start working with web graphics. But anything that you do that has a web application to it, a hotspot or a slice or something like that, will go into the web layer. Another panel that I think you'll find rather interesting is the Common Library. So if I click it, these are little graphics that you can actually bring into your work. And all you have to do is just select it and just drag it over, and it will go on top of your image and go into its own layer, and you can go to work on it. Just collapse that down. Down here, Properties panel. Now, the Properties panel is basically context sensitive. That means that whatever tool or thing you select in Fireworks will have its own context. So, for instance, if I click on this image, you'll see that the Properties panel tells me it's a bitmap, and I can rename it. And if I rename it, it will actually rename in the Layers panel. I can change the width and the height of the image, and I can even change its location on the canvas. Right now, it's up in the upper left-hand corner at 0, 0. I can apply blend modes to it. I can change its opacity, and I can even apply filters to it, and I can even apply styles to it. Styles are graphic styles that are right here in the Styles panel. You can see that there are all kinds of them. So if I were to click this, it would apply this to the image. Over here's the Tools panel. The Tools panel is broken into, as you can see, a number of discrete areas. There's the Select tools, and you can see that when you see a little arrow like this, it means there's more tools underneath, so you can actually select a pointer tool. And by the way, you can use these keys, V and O, to switch between the tools without clicking on it. And then there's the Select Behind tool, which allows you to select objects that are behind other objects. This is the Subselection tool, which allows you to pick up bits and pieces of groups or even lines in vectors. Now remember, this application, Fireworks, is a combination of vectors and bitmaps. So when you're drawing shapes, you're actually drawing vectors. These are the Scale tool and Skew, Distort, and 9-slice scaling. We'll get into all of those later on. And of course, we've got a Crop tool, and you notice as soon as I select it and I've got the image selected, I got the crop handles, and I can also export an area. And this is really kind of cool too, and I'll get into that one later on in this course. The bitmap tools, usual suspects are found here. There's the marquee tool. There's the oval marquee, so you can make square or round selections. Lasso has the usual freehand and the polygon lasso, which allows you to make linear selections. Magic wand, paintbrush, pencil, in other words, fill, stroke, erase. And of course, if you're a Photoshop user, you're used to these tools. These are used for imaging. There is the rubber stamp tool, replace color, and red eye removal. And again, we'll get into these ones later on. Okay, switch over here. The vector tools, line tool, pen tool. These are the vector shapes. In here, though, are things called auto shapes, and we'll talk about those later on, but they're kind of neat. There's the text tool. So if I select the text tool, you see that the property panel becomes contextual. I can set all kinds of text properties here. The web tools are primarily for hotspots. That's what this is for. And there are all kinds of little hotspots that you can make. Rectangles, circles, and polygons for regular hotspots. And of course, the slice tool, which you can use to slice up your image for export to the web. The color tools, there's an eyedropper tool here that allows you to sample color. Paint bucket tool, which allows you to fill. Pencil tool, which allows you to stroke. And you can see that you can set the fill color just by clicking here and choosing your color. Now, what this does, this little icon here, unlike Photoshop, which changes the foreground and background colors, this will actually change the fill and the stroke, or the selected color, to a default. If I come back here and put it back, and then click it again, you'll notice that the paint changes to white. And I can also flip the order and change it that way. The view tools are kind of neat. These are little buttons. This is the standard screen mode. That's what you're looking at here. This view here is full screen with menus. So if I click it, you can see that a lot of the menus appear. And this one here turns off everything and allows me to look at the image against a neutral black background. But the really cool thing about this is if I come over here, you notice that I still have access to the tools that are down in this area. So you've always got access to your tools. And if you want to switch between them, all you have to do is press the F key. So if I press F, I'm back to the standard view. There's the full screen with menus, and there's the background view. All right, so that's that. And of course, there's a grabber hand and a magnifying glass. Now up here is the image panel. This tells me that I've got the Hugo image. It's open. It's a JPEG image. It's only got one page. I'm in page 1 of it, and I'm looking at it at a view of 20%. Now, you can have any number of images you want open, and they will just panelize right along here. So you can all these little tabs, and if you want to open an image, just click the tab. Here is another way of looking at images. These are view menus. This is the original, so this is where you will work. But if you want to see what all your changes look like, you would click Preview. And these two panels, 2 up and 4 up, are primarily used for image optimization, so you can actually see the effect of making changes to your image by compressing the color or changing the color space, and it will tell you basically how long it's going to take to download and how big it is. And we're going to come back to original. Finally, down here, this is telling me a lot of information about the image. It's telling me its file size, 3.761 kilobytes. That's a lot of file size, so that's going to have to come down. And if I were to load it in a 56K modem, it would take over 60 seconds or 600 seconds to load. And it is a JPEG document. Down here are animation tools. This is rewind, play, fast forward, what frame is playing, go to the previous state, go to the next state. This is frame by frame animation. This one here will exit the bitmap mode. This tells me what size the image is, the dimensions of the image, and it also tells me the view. Now finally, this little button up in here is really kind of interesting. If you've got this image sitting in a Dreamweaver site, this is your FTP upload. So you can actually make changes to an image right in Fireworks, click this button, upload it to your site, and it will immediately show up on your web page. So there you go. There's a quick tour of the Fireworks CS5.1 interface. And in the next exercise, what we're going to take a look at is using the various tabs for images. As I told you earlier, you can put a whole bunch of images up here, and they're going to be in tabs. And there are some pretty cool things you can do with them.